Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu is somebody that has a lot of positive sides, credible positive sides, a civil libertarian, and someone that is a very good administrator. He was elected as governor of Lagos State, having been a senator under SDP, where he even chaired a committee that has now been split into 4 in the Senate: finance, appropriation, and so on and so forth. When he was elected, there was a transition between the military and democracy or civil rule, as the case may be. Those were years that the governors were pioneers. We didn't have a lot of precedents. What he did was to fill in the gap. The governors had challenges of precedents. They wanted to show class. They wanted to show that they could fill in the vacuum, the democratic vacuum that the military administrators had left. Asiwaju on his own set up within that transition period, and it will not be wrong to call it an interregnum, a policy work group, a policy transitional work group that engaged bureaucrats, technocrats, politicians, and everybody that mattered in the society, depending on the subject matter. There were over 20 subcommittees within the committee, each subcommittee subject-based: finance, budget and economic planning, health, education, judiciary, agri, works, housing, transportation, so on and so forth. I can recollect that Professor Olikwe Ransom Kuti was the chairman of the Committee on Health, with a lot of other distinguished doctors and professors, irrespective of where you're from. Professor Patutomi was chairman, I think, budget and economic planning, with a lot of other professionals that could provide facts, figures, data, statistics with respect to budget and economic planning in Lagos. We also had Mrs. Priscilla Kuye. She was MBA president and she was chairman of that committee. I think the vice president, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, was the secretary. We had maybe 5 or 6 professors, and some other sons were there. Maybe about 5 other sons were also there. And that committee also had former DPPs and so on and so forth. People that could provide knowledge, people that could provide information. I can recollect that Dr. Wale Babalakin was also chairing a committee, I think a committee to deal with tourism. And what mattered most was that this committee sat down and worked. They looked at Lagos before, Lagos then, and Lagos in the future. And they came up with blueprint. That is why there is a blueprint in Lagos. So by the grace of God, when Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu becomes the president of Nigeria, we are going to have a planned Nigeria. We're going to have a Nigeria that is based on strategy, based on planning, based on vision. A Nigeria that nothing will happen economically haphazardly. It will not be by mistake. It will not be by absence. A Nigeria that there will be a blueprint, like a business plan. What are we going to do? What is the data? What is this? What are the statistics? How many people are we preparing for? Because this is the number of people in this particular area, and we project that in the next 20, 30 years, there will be wide number of people there. So we will also have a Nigeria that is not just about planning and having a vision. We are also dealing with a man that is also an actualizer, a man that will ensure that all those plans are actualized. They are not just going to sit in the drawer or just going to sit on the table in file. They will be implemented. They will be executed. Apart from that, I think what is also very important to know about is that, yes, we all know he's kind. We all know he has no religious barriers whatsoever. He was a pioneer because he worked as a team and he had the benefit of people working with him to tap from. He was the first to do a lot of things, myriad of things, plethora of things, starting from internal generated revenue to the ambulance service, to drain docks, to LASMA, to IPP, Independent Power Project, to so many things that at a point in time, other states were coming to Lagos to have a look at what Lagos was doing. Even the federal government, in a few instances, came to have a look at what Lagos was doing. I can also recollect when we were in the 4th House of Assembly between 1999 and 2003, that Asiwaju was a stickler for the rule of law. Before, as a civil libertarian, as governor, and even when he left as governor of Lagos State, he's always fought for the masses. There are times you wonder why he was getting involved. I can recollect vividly what happened in Oyo State, which was even reported in the Enokoju's case, that Governor Ladoja was removed. He was there. Oyo State was PDP then, but he was there to support independence of the legislature as an arm of government, to support constitutionalism, to support separation of powers, and to support rule of law. What he did was to support Oyo State governor that was being harassed, to ensure that justice was done. He did the same thing in Plateau State when Governor Dariye was also being harassed. And the Speaker of Plateau State then, who happens to be the governor of Plateau State now, and his honorable members were detained because they wanted them to remove the governor. And they said, Section 188 is very clear. There is a procedure, there is a process. We cannot initiate impeachment proceedings in vacuum. Somebody must have, 1/3 of the parliamentarians must have put pen to paper and must have submitted their petition to that effect. And he supported them to ensure that justice was done. So we are talking about a man that believed in the rule of law. I had an encounter with respect to provision of the Constitution, I think it's Section 197 now, which is analogous to Section 153 when it comes to federal executive bodies. And it was being proposed that the Lagos State Civil Service Commission's chairman be removed. And he said, let's talk about it. I was there with my speaker then, Dr. Mamora, who is the Minister for Science and Tech now, who was also in the Senate. And the Vice President, the Attorney General, was there with Asiwaju. And we looked at the Constitution. And they said, let's follow the law. They have to run their tenure of 5 years. There's nothing we can do about it unless there is infirmity of body, infirmity of mind, or misconduct, and so on and so forth. So a man that has fought so many battles, a man that whenever the federal government infringed on the provision of the Constitution would go to court to nourish and embellish the jurisprudence, constitutional jurisprudence of this democratic experience. It was right there. Almost all the cases, he was one champion in it. Talk about local government creation. 2 cases are reported to that effect, to first of all determine what will be done. Then when the court now determined, to also make the court determine that the federal government was unlawfully, unconstitutionally, and illegally holding on to the funds of Lagos State. We have the offshore dichotomy issue. We also had the environmental issues. There are lots of issues that went to court to determine that there is separation of power and to determine that the Constitution is supreme in Nigeria in furtherance of Section 1 of the Constitution, that the Constitution is supreme and that any other law that is not in tandem with the provision of the Constitution is null and void to the extent of its inconsistency. So Asiwaju's presidency, what we will see by the grace of God, is a determined man, is a man that is prepared for the office, a man that has vision for Nigeria, a man that will put in place strategy and planning towards achieving the ultimate good for the people, towards achieving law, order, and good governance in every respect: security, infrastructure, economy, and the rest of it. He will not work by reacting to issues. He will work by proacting on issues. He's a man that will ensure that he worked with others as a team. He's a man that believes in the rule of law, believes in the Constitution, that believes in planning before implementing, and that we are going to be sure he's going to implement. He's a man that is not biased when it comes to issue of race. So many people served in Lagos State, they were not from Lagos. So many people served in Lagos State, they were from other religious or ethnic background averse to his. So we are likely to see governance almost for the first time in Nigeria that is going to be run based on research, based on depth, based on facts and figures. Asiwaju Bola Tinubu is not just a civil libertarian. Asiwaju Bola Tinubu believes so much in the rule of law, and he also believes so much in true federalism that the federal government must abide by what is in the exclusive list, the state government must abide by what is on the residual list and its own portion of the concurrent list. And ditto for the local government. Local government must operate. He believes so much in true federalism that every facet of governance, every arm and every tier of government must also work well. Separation of powers. At no point in time did he put pressure on the parliament when we worked with him. I was opportune to serve with him 1999 to 2007, 1999 to 2003 as chairman of the Lagos State House of Assembly Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Public Petitions, and Ethics and Privileges Committee. And I now became the majority leader, and I was still initially the vice chairman of Rules and Business, and later on the chairman of Rules and Business, before I became the majority leader of the State House of Assembly. At no point in time did he tried to influence the parliament. At no point in time did he try to influence the judiciary. He believed so much in independence of the judiciary, and a lot of things that were planned for the judiciary were actualized. He was the first to buy vehicles for magistrates in Nigeria. He was the first to ensure that all judges, once you become a judge, you are assured of roof over your head. You will not leave as a judge and start looking for a place to live when you retire. He made sure that is still being done in Lagos. All these legacies are there. The open door alternative dispute Dispute Resolution was put in place by him. Citizen Mediation Center was put in place by him. Office of the Public Defender was put in place by him. All of these were done as pioneer. They were never done before in Nigeria, so much so that other states started coming to Lagos to learn what Lagos has done with a view to replicating it in their respective states. It did so much in the judiciary that one would not have any choice to see him from that prism, from that perspective, as somebody that believes in the rule of law, in separation of power, and in true federalism. In his cabinet, he had politicians, but he also had technocrats. And I normally say this to him: he knows how to put round peg in round hole. He knows how to do that. He studies someone and he knows what the person can do. He's a very good human resource manager. Is very good when it comes to placement of staff. Is very good when it comes to moderating meetings. You can never argue off cuff when he was governor of Lagos State. In fact, let me tell you that you will be fined 10,000 naira if you argued off cuff. So if you don't know what to say, you keep quiet. So the debate in parliament was very robust. A parliament that had senior advocates of Nigeria, had professors, had medical doctors, had experts, had politicians. It was a mixed grill of everybody. Had very young people, had very elderly people, had middle-aged people, had men, had women, had Christians, had Muslims. So all shades, all colors of all manner of opinion were represented, and issues were debated, thoroughly debated, and democratically arrived at. Decisions democratically arrived at. I think in Nigeria, that is what we are going to have. That is what we're going to benefit with the presidency of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Asiwaju's cabinet was very robust. Asiwaju is a man that has unquantifiable energy. He worked around the clock as governor of Lagos State, and he's still working around the clock. He's the one campaigning hardest now. When we were in Lagos State House of Assembly, we had opportunity of meeting with him, but most meetings you will hold with him, apart from running government during the day, will be at night. It was nocturnal, and it never mattered. And the following morning, it will still be at his desk. He never believed in ethnicity, and he was not a religious bigot. He had to return schools. He was the first person to return schools. Catholic Church got their schools back in Lagos State. He just felt that the schools belonged to them ab initio. The schools were properly run, and it's going to save me some money to spend on other public schools if the mission schools are returned to the missionaries. They will bring their money and they will run their government. I'm very definite that Asiwaju will handle security issues when he becomes president of Nigeria by the grace of God. In Lagos State, he started RRS, which I also make bold to say was the first. Because he wanted to take security to the grassroots, he also started Neighborhood Watch. People recruited from the local government level, from the ward level, from the unit level. They were liaising with the police and liaising with every other security apparatus in the state. With Asiwaju, Nigeria is secured.